Come on out, sir. Come on out, sir. Come on out. This is my younger brother, so he gets the razz from us all the time. For those of you I have not had an opportunity to meet before tonight, my name is Adam Troy. I have the responsibility of leading everything we do from an outreach perspective here at New Salem. And so we just want to welcome you here tonight for a little community conversation. For those of you that are familiar with what we do here on Wednesday nights, as the kids would say, our campus is lit. So when Councilman said this is a night we want to do it, quite frankly, this was the only room that was available for us to be able to hold this in. Community dinner runs every Wednesday from 5 to 7. We also do the kids craft, which you saw going on, which is very popular. So we're happy to have you here tonight. Our pastor is here tonight, and even if you weren't here tonight, his message to us would be, we practice a very relevant gospel here at New Salem. And so while it's warm in here, it should be motivation for all of you to live right, because you don't want to wind up in some place else that is significantly hotter than what you are experiencing now. So this is one of the one part of the building that does not have HVAC. So our hope is that the program will move along fairly expeditiously. But again, we're glad to have you here. You will hear probably, I think our dance team is doing some rehearsal starting in maybe about 35 minutes. They'll below us. We'll make sure that sound doesn't muffle what we're doing up here. But again, man, we're so happy that tonight worked out, and the key word was just being flexible. Kaylin Pittman, who is one of our members, thank you for all that you do. Y'all give it up for this sister. And the team. I'm going to get out of the way and welcome our pastor, because he costs a lot of money on an hourly basis, and I really can't afford him. But one of the things that you're going to talk about is this is Public Safety Week. On Saturday, we are all back together. For those of you that have little ones, anywhere between the ages of 4 and 14, we are joint venturing with Pelotonia this year. Pelotonia Kids, for the first time, would do a Pelotonia Kids event inside of 270 in Linden over at Maloney Park. So we'll start registration at 9 o'clock, start at 10 o'clock. It's going to be a phenomenal time. So any and everybody is welcome. Bounce houses, music, and Pelotonia Kids, and of course everything relevant to public safety. All right, thank you again. So, Pastor Troy.
Good evening, and praise the Lord. Let me apologize for you having to be in the outskirts of what is known as New Salem. When he said to me he wanted to do this on Wednesday night, I was like, bro, you know, we feed the community in there, the choir's rehearsing in the sanctuary, the dance ministry's downstairs, and so you are in this is the second building. This is 3 buildings. The Fellowship Hall is the first. This is the second building. So we apologize, but we do what we do, and we try to, when people make requests, we try to honor that. It's been my humble pleasure now to be the pastor of New Salem for 41 years. And so I'm grateful for all that they have trusted me with, and grateful to be a community partner. And whatever we can do to serve, we stand ready and willing to do that. Hopefully you got a meal. If not, you can sneak out the back. We'll show you how to get back to the kitchen. And we feed the community for free. That's part of our commitment in terms of those things. So please, we're going to turn it over to Councilman Remy, and feel free to let's do the community and let's do it right, all right? God bless you.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to have everyone here this evening, and to see such a robust, attendance this evening. I really want to begin by thanking New Salem and the Troy family for hosting this conversation tonight, because as you can see, they're fully immersed in this Linden community. And I met Adam probably, I don't know, it's close to a decade now that we met, and we have conversed. We've talked about what this community means to the city of Columbus and what needs to be done to help stand this community up and lift it up to be the great community that it is today. So I appreciate what we see. You guys are beacons of service for this community, and the spirit shines through everyone. Now, I know it's warm, and I appreciate what the sentiment. We also can think about what it's going to be in about 3 to 4 months and appreciate that this is much better now than what we're going to experience in a few months. So it's important to me. Thank you for joining us for Public Safety Week here in the Linden community. It is important to me that we have this conversation. It's important that we share ideas and listen to what the work that's being done in our community is. Public Safety Week, we started last year in the Milo Grogan community, and Public Safety Week is about our first responders, police and fire, working closely together with our community to make sure that we are having an open and honest conversation. We are building relationships because we want you to be able to walk up to a police officer and have a conversation. We want you to be able to talk with our firemen and firewomen and have a conversation. We want to make community safety a top priority, and so that's what Public Safety Week's all about. On Sunday, we were out with our cadets, both police and fire, going door to door on Arlington Avenue, on Genesee, and others throughout the community to make sure that people had resources. We had fire extinguishers we were handing out. We were checking smoke detectors and making sure that people had the ability to stay safe in their home, and everybody seemed so appreciative. It was a beautiful day to be out in the community doing that. We are happy to have this conversation. Last night we had a breakout session. Those will be available online, talking about a variety of things in this community, including, unfortunately, citizen. I always get this acronym wrong, but it's CRAZE. It stands for the citizen. You go ahead, Avery. Thank you. That's right. Unfortunately, that is something we all need to be very aware of, and so that is available for rebroadcast. Tomorrow we'll be excited to join all of you all at Linden Rec for a block party from 4 to 7. And I think it's important to note that City News will be there, DJ and everybody, for everyone. And so we're looking forward to an evening of bounce houses again and all of the fire and police apparatus, as well as free food. And so we will have resources there like those fire extinguishers, like clubs, so that everybody gets a chance to help protect themselves and be safe. So I wanted to host a community conversation this Safety Week because maintaining that dialogue is so important, like I said, and our safety officials, it's paramount to our success in keeping everyone safe. And I want you to know how Columbus is moving forward. That's toward a safer city for everyone. I say this constantly, that we have a goal in public safety to make sure that we are answering every single call that comes into the city the right way every single time. And we've made some great strides over the last few years as Columbus City Council. President Hardin and myself have been leading the charge in alternative response and making sure that the city of Columbus is doing things the right way, the way that things are changing and evolving throughout this country. And so it's a work in progress. It's never fast. It's never easy. But we are making great strides, and so we're excited. So it's important. Public safety is a feeling. We know that. We know that it's a feeling, whether you feel safe when you walk down your street or you go to a park. And we want to make sure that no matter where you are in the city of Columbus, you feel safe. So I do want to thank all of our partners. We have a robust group of partners, the law enforcement, Action Partnership, Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children, who are here this evening. Thank you so much. The Community of Caring Development Foundation, the Greater 12th Missionary Baptist Church, North Linden Area Commission, South Linden Area Commission. North Central was involved as well. We Are Linden, of course. I saw Ralph Carter back there. In the Central Ohio Restored Citizens Collaborative, who I'm going to ask to come up here and say a few words on what they do and the kind of resources they can provide this evening. So you guys, that's you guys, right? Okay. Why don't you come on up? I know we've talked on the phone, Zach, but haven't had the chance to actually meet in person. So I'll just have you introduce yourselves.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Councilmember.
Nice to meet you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zach Ruppel. I am a volunteer with the Central Ohio Restored Citizens Collaborative, and I'm also a proud member of the Linden community down on 15th. And so here this evening, just to share a little bit about the resources that we provide, because when we talk about public safety, we also need to talk about reentry, and we know that good reentry services are good public safety resources as well. And so we're thrilled to be part of this conversation, and we're thrilled for the ongoing partnership with both City Council as well as the Office of Violence Prevention. I know from seeing it every day on 15th and driving up and down Cleveland Avenue, but I also know it from my work as someone who works in justice policy, that any form of contact with the criminal legal system reduces someone's earnings by over 50%. And if we also know that inability to meet one's economic need is a core predictor of violence, we have answers for public safety and its investment. And that's why I love to see an event like this taking place and featuring the voice of reentry. And so for the last 15 years, the Central Ohio Restored Citizens Collaborative has existed to provide that voice of reentry. So we're grateful to be here, and I want to introduce my colleague Shannon Bradshaw to share a little bit more about some of the specific resources we provide and how you can reach us if you need that assistance. Shannon?
All right, thank you, Zach. And thanks for having us. Sorry, I'm short. Thanks for having us here. The community conversation is so important. It's pivotal to what CORCC stands for. So to give you a little bit of the background of what we do is we have one main event that many of you may have known, the Restored Citizen Summit, just had a couple weeks ago, where we get all of our community partners together, and it is reframing the narrative of being involved with the criminal justice system. We also, outside of that one day of the year, we have resource navigation. So there is a plethora of individuals from several different backgrounds. I work for the court myself. I run a mental health docket under Judge Munson. So we know some of the resources maybe that not other people who haven't navigated those systems yet don't know yet. So if we don't have the answers for it, we know somebody who can. If you reach out to us by phone, by email, we're always receptive to ideas of volunteering or ways that we can get involved in the community as well. And we will also be present at the pop-ups or the events tomorrow and on Saturday. So we'll see you guys there.
Thank you both. I'm very appreciative of their work. I've been involved with justice-involved individuals in my time in office and know that the system's broken, and it is a lot of circles that don't necessarily lead anywhere. And so it's important that groups like them are there and we help lift them up, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that people can live productive lives when they return from incarceration. So thank you both so much. I hope everybody enjoyed their dinner. Can we give a round of applause to the New Salem folks? And a lot of thanks for what they do every single week. That's a lot of food to produce and to give away for free every single week, and we certainly appreciate that. Next, I'm going to ask Rena Shack from the Office of Violence Prevention to come up and talk a little bit about the work and then the gun buyback this weekend. So if you would like to come up, Director.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm so happy to see everyone here. My name is Rena Shack, and I'm the director of the Columbus Office of Violence Prevention. And so I'm going to apologize in advance, because if you know me, you know I'm technologically incapable, and Kaylin asked me if I had slides, so I panic made slides for tonight. So it's going to force you to watch them while I go through this short presentation, because I worked really hard on them. So go ahead. The first slide here just talks a little bit about what our office is about. Essentially, back in 2022, Mayor Ginther declared gun violence as a public health crisis here in Columbus. And so what he did was he asked Columbus Public Health to take a deep dive into what that meant for our city. They spent months researching, they did public hearings, and at the end of all of that, they put forth a report which had the main recommendation of creating an Office of Violence Prevention for our city. What they found was that Columbus was hugely blessed, frankly, to have the amount of incredible programming through community-based organizations, just everyday individuals trying to do good work in this space, city-funded programs and city-run programs. But what we were lacking was one coordinating body through either city council or the mayor's office that could kind of help strategize and coordinate everybody into going in one direction. And so that's our purpose. Here is just, go ahead, it's a little bit of a visualization here. A lot of people think that we are enforcement. We are not the police. We are not the Columbus Division of Police. They do incredible work, and we love working alongside them, but we do not do enforcement. So we are right there on the right with the prevention and the intervention side of things. What does a successful OVP look like? It's appropriate staffing and budget. It's creating a city data collection and transparency, and messaging and education. And right here you see myself as well as our Deputy Director, Dr. Joanne Lunsford. Together we both bring over 35 years of criminal justice experience in our courthouses here in Franklin County to this job. Next slide, you have our wonderful team here. So this is our immediate OVP team. We have an administrative assistant, a data and policy coordinator, we have a communications staff member, and then we have 3 community resource coordinators. And here tonight we have Mr. Irie Sherfield. Irie, raise your hand. He's right there in the back. He's one of our CRCs, and he is the Linden representative for anything that you all need here in Linden. So if you want to talk to him, get his card, get his number, whatever you need, he can help you connect with us and the city. So a little bit about our major accomplishments in year 1 is that just along the theme of community conversations, we recognized from our beginning that we can't do our work without finding out from the community what the community needs first. So our work can't be for the people if it is not of the people. And so going in that vein, we conducted over 25 targeted community conversations, which means we held a big public one to kick it off with 200 people from the community, but then we went to places like prisons, to foster homes. We talked to homeless individuals, you name it. We made sure that we were trying to get feedback from every marginalized portion of our population that doesn't necessarily get brought into these conversations to find out what our community members really needed to see from our violence prevention offerings here at the city. And then we also joined the National Offices of Violence Prevention Network. We were able to join the White House's violence prevention convening because shout out to VP Harris, if anybody watched the debates last night, but she started an Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and so we were able to join them and their forces as well. We provided race, crime, violence, and systemic issue trainings across the state of Ohio, conducted a spring break series for over 1,000 children in our rec centers over this past spring break. Last year, we hosted the largest gun buyback in the city of Columbus's history, and then we have contracted with the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform and the Ohio State University for strategic supports. This just talks about our community engagement, and we can move on to the next slide, which kind of shows through our community conversations the biggest portions of feedback that we were able to get from the individuals that we spoke to. Again, we had over 500 individuals from the city of Columbus participate in our community conversations. And the biggest themes was that they wanted to make sure that the approach, the resources being provided, and the programs being provided by the city included these things up here. And I'm happy to provide these to anybody who wants so that we don't have to spend time reading this tiny print. But essentially that's what came out of those conversations. And Kaylin also asked me to speak a little bit about our contract with the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform, which for us is huge. They house the National Offices of Violence Prevention Network, and so we've brought them in for 2024 through 2025 to guide the work of the Columbus Office of Violence Prevention in helping us do a few things. One is that they'll be on site monthly. They're going to give us guidance in creating a community violence intervention ecosystem. which, if you don't know what community violence intervention work is, it is a system that essentially operates on a social determinant of health basis. So we're talking about looking at finances, looking at health, looking at mental health, substance abuse, all of the things, right? Whether it's housing, your access to food, all the things that can lead someone into the criminal justice system or can lead someone into being a victim of crime. And how do we address those things holistically to make sure that we're affecting the decrease in violent crime in our communities? And so to do that, you have to address prevention, intervention, and interruption, which are three different levels of prevention that a lot of people don't necessarily realize are different aspects of the work that we do. They will also provide us with a 3 to 5 year strategic plan, and then they're going to give us a local cost of gun violence report, which we will be unveiling in November. It's going to tell us exactly how much the city of Columbus spends every time there's a felonious assault, so a non-fatal shooting in our city, every time there is a homicide in our city, and what those costs look like from top to bottom. You're talking about police involvement, you're talking about the court's involvement, hospital costs, everything that goes into what that looks like for our city and where we could be putting that money on the prevention side so that we don't have to get to that point in the first place. Go ahead, Kaylin. Thank you. Recently, we just unveiled this landscape analysis, which NICJR came and spent the last 6 months looking at all of our offerings for our community violence intervention partners here in Columbus. We were able to house over 100 violence intervention professionals, which had not to date been under the same roof. And these are individuals that are either funded by the city, our city-run programs, or community-based organizations, but specifically that provide intervention work. So that is very targeted violence intervention work that includes on-the-ground violence interrupters. So people who are operating who have either been to prison, maybe been shot, had family members shot or been to prison, and have that life experience to where they can go up to somebody and say, hey, let me help you. Let's not go down this path. Let me offer you these resources instead. And so we were able to bring, like I said, over 100 of those professionals here in the city of Columbus under one roof, and we've been working with them for the last 6 months to really partner and build an ecosystem out. You can access the report from that link that was previous, and we can give it to anybody that wants it. Go ahead. And the next slides are just some key takeaways from this report. Mainly, if you look here, they were able to really show us where in our city we have physical CBOs, where we have city agencies, but then the other dots, the blue and the orange, are where we're seeing fatal shootings and non-fatal shootings. And so just looking at that map, we're really able to see the areas in our city where we are missing physical representations or physical buildings or businesses, CBOs, departments that are addressing violence in our city. Although we do have a plethora, we can see that it's really concentrated in the middle. And so it shows us in a physical illustration where we can be doing better. And that has been really instrumental in helping us guide where we're going next for violence prevention. This just explains a little bit about what an ecosystem would look like. If anyone's interested, we can get you a copy of that. Go ahead, Kaylin. And then here are the groups that we worked with. And these are the different areas that they are really doing amazing work in addressing. So we have the CARE Coalition, Urban League, Community for New Direction, CVR, and I won't read all of those, but I want to stress that this by no means means that these are the only organizations in this city doing this work. We have so many amazing organizations, a lot of which are here tonight, that are also doing prevention work. We just stressed the ones that the city is funding or running that are doing direct intervention or interruption work, and then we will branch out from there. Next, I just want to talk a little bit about our gun buyback. Last year, we held in conjunction with CPD, the largest funded gun buyback that the city has seen. We gave out over $130,000 in cash gift cards. We collected 344 firearms, which included 25 assault rifles and 9 sawed-off shotguns. We had 201 handguns turned in. I believe we had 75 rifles, more shotguns, and so we're doing the same thing this year. We have $106,000 in cash gift cards to give away. That'll be this Saturday from 10 to 2 at Franklin University, Lot D. We have these flyers. Irie has them if anybody needs them. It's completely anonymous, no questions asked. So if you have any firearms or know anybody that wants to turn in firearms, we've been working with the ATF to make sure that the amounts we are giving away for these firearms are above market value, to incentivize people to bring in firearms that they have around the house. We keep saying one less firearm in circulation is one less that can be stolen and used for crime. One less firearm that can be used for somebody to self-harm, that can be used in domestic violence incident, and one less firearm for a child to get their hands on. So that's my spiel tonight. Thank you, Kaylin, for having me. Thank you, Councilman Remy. And if you have any questions, see Irie or I.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Director. We appreciate the work that you're doing in your partnership. Certainly looking forward to the gun buyback over the weekend. Now I have the pleasure to introduce our panel this evening and the presentation that they're going to give, but I want to take the moment to just thank my team, Kaylin Pittman, Avery Townsend, Cole Calloway, who is not here this evening, but certainly this is a Herculean effort to put something like this on, and we are not trained to be event planners, so it may not look the best behind the scenes, but hopefully what you see out here is a good product, and so appreciate you all being here. So I'm really excited to recognize our two guests this evening, Deontay Martin and Tom Thompson from LEAP, the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, to talk more about alternative response, because that really gets down to, we know what police do when they go out and they are in our community. We know what fire does. But again, getting back to that root question of how do we answer every single call the right way every single time? So with that, I'll turn it over to you two. And thank you for making the journey into Columbus, Ohio.
Thank you. First, being in the church and growing up with a grandma, I would like to give grace to God and thank the city for inviting us here. We really appreciate it. So first, I want to introduce myself. My name is Deontay Martin, but please feel free to call me D throughout this presentation. I am a program specialist here at the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, which we can get into more later. In short terms, we contract with cities to design alternative response programs. And to my right, I have Chief Thompson, who does some of that work, and I would like him to talk about his law enforcement experience.
Yes, I have almost 30 years now in law enforcement. I'm retired from the municipal world. I was an assistant city manager for a short time, and then I have been chief of police over a healthcare network in Southwest Ohio, and also right now the police chief at Sinclair College. And I have the opportunity to teach adjunct in our state penitentiaries, and I also run a nonprofit where we work with about 1,500 immigrants a year, some of which are from Springfield, and they're Haitian, and they're not stealing people's pets and eating them. But I've been blessed to have the opportunity to work with a lot of different people in a lot of different areas, and for LEAP.
Thank you. So I brought Tom here today, one, because he has that law enforcement experience, which I do not, and so he can speak closely to what it's like being in the field and responding to those calls. And I think he's just a great advocate of alternative response. Caitlin, you can go ahead to the next slide. So this is Public Safety Week, public safety, right? So there's so much that is changing within public safety, and one of those things is figuring out the right response to every 911 call. And so after the death of George Floyd, a lot of people started to protest. A lot of people were angry. And coming out of the protest and the defund the police movement was alternative response. Caitlin, you can go ahead to that next slide. That's you, Chief.
Okay. So, first I do want to say this is amazing being in a church, and we have the police here, we have the community here, we have so many different representatives that are serving those that, and I'm a preacher's kid, so I'm going to say this, it might sound like I've been in church before, serving those are really at the center of God's heart. The people who have been imprisoned, the foreigners, the people who are poor, the widows, the children, and just watching that unfold tonight with this group has been amazing. So kudos, councilmen, for having this event and pastor for hosting it in your church. I'm going to start by saying police officers, and I'm an almost 30-year vet in a lot of different areas, are some of the most police officers are the greatest people you will ever meet in your entire life. So not only are they doing work every day that most people don't even know exists. I mean, we're talking dark, dangerous work. But most officers are also giving of their own time outside of work and their own money outside of work, because at the heart, they're truly people who just want to serve individuals who are in this church tonight. So they really, truly are, I promise you, some of the greatest human beings alive. They've also been tasked to do almost an impossible amount of things. Not only are they supposed to investigate crimes, they're supposed to build community relationships and make sure that's always positive. They're supposed to be social workers, drug counselors, working with the homeless, having the time to be able to do all of that and connect everybody to the right resources at the right time to make sure that nothing inequitable or unjust ever happens. And unfortunately, that's just not possible. And so what can happen is, from the police side, there's less time that can be spent investigating violent crimes or other bad crimes. There's less time being able to build relationships in the community, spending more times in situations that are in conflict with the community. And there's less time to investigate anything. Also, what bad can happen, because police, it's impossible to be experts in every area. There are, and I'll speak for myself, but I would imagine that most police officers will be able to say they have seen uses of force happen, that later they reflected on it and say, you know what, that probably didn't need to happen. And a lot of times that is with people who are suffering from mental health issues. And at times, nobody gets hurt. At times people get hurt. Sometimes people die. I really saw this when I worked in the hospital, the difference between how police responded and then mental health professionals responded. It just like a curtain just came off my eyes, thinking, wow, this is pretty impressive. Maybe we should do something different. And also, there are times where people go to jail or go to the hospital, where realistically we can sit back and reflect and say, that probably didn't have to happen, but I'm busy and they're trespassing and I don't know what else to do with them, so I'm going to take them to jail. Not out of being hateful, but just out of resources. And so, and obviously you guys know what happens there. You start entering the criminal justice system, things start moving, and next thing you know, you're just buried in life and you can't get out of it. So all those situations aren't good. Where alternative responders come in is they're there to fill that gap. So they are non-uniformed responders who go to police calls for service. So when I first heard this, as a lifetime police guy who's investigated murders and bad stuff and all that, I thought, man, that's just too dangerous. You know, we can't send a non-uniformed person in on a call, on police calls for service. But then I had to realistically think, non-uniformed people are in people's houses every day, whether it's shutting off their water, dealing with child care issues, and so it can happen. So that's what alternative responders do. As a community responder, which is different than a co-responder, is a group of individuals that are not armed, they are not law enforcement, but they have the ability to answer a call and then connect them to long-term resources and be able to problem solve in areas that the police are not able to do that. Yep. So this is how the community responders work. And I'm calling it alternate responders. So it comes through dispatch, 911. So typically in cities where this is happening, like where I work in Dayton, Ohio, it comes through dispatch. And dispatchers now, they're looking at, we're going to send somebody to police, fire, medic. So they're already making decisions on where they're sending somebody with decision trees. Well, this is just another decision tree point. And I do believe Columbus has a lot of other layers other than just those three. It's a big city. You guys are very involved. But it's just another piece on the decision tree that dispatchers have to be able to dispatch, okay, this call is appropriate for community responders. Or, like in Dayton, Ohio, they have the MDTs, the mobile data terminals, that the police have. So they see the calls come in, and they can just grab the calls and put it out over the radio that, hey, I'll be taking this call, because they see it. So they can also self-dispatch. Or sometimes, like in Dayton, Ohio, they have a direct line where they might have somebody manning it 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. We could call in a direct line and have a mediation response unit is what it's called in Dayton. So a lot of the different call types you can see listed there, unless my head might be blocking it for some of you, I apologize. But they're like check on the welfares, somebody suffering from some mental health that doesn't have a knife or gun, so obviously that would get screened out. Disturbances, people arguing, neighbor complaints, panhandlers. Really, truly, when I sit back and thought about it, almost all of the different calls that I thought of as a cop and we would talk about afterwards, like, what would we just spend 45 minutes doing this for? This was a waste of our time. So those are really the calls that the police officers themselves, and I know I did, were like, all we did was tick 2 different people off. Now they don't like or trust the police. And we just wasted 45 minutes when we could have been, on dope houses or investigating serious crimes or trying to prevent gun violence. So the responders are not just a group of people that are winging it. We wouldn't just walk through this room and just grab a handful of people and say, you're now the community responders. So like I heard before in the presentation for the gun violence, a lot of people have lived experience in the communities where these community responders are responding to. So they might be from that community. They resonate with that community. They understand the culture and the people in that community. They understand how to problem solve in that community. They're also many times educated with master's degree in social work or degrees in mediation. So it's not just grabbing people off the street and saying, let's do it. Some are mental health clinicians even. They also have uniforms, not like police uniforms, but in Dayton they wear like khakis and a shirt that says mediator on the back. They also have radios, just like the police do, that are on the same channels as the police, MDTs, so they can communicate with the police, and have vehicles. So they don't look like the police, but they have quick access to the police. And what we've found out, it's really been, we were part of, and so, I've gotten to watch it unfold from across the street. And it has really, truly been what I would like to call just magical. That sounds weird and goofy, but it's been magical. The way to how police have embraced this program. They recently did a survey of, Dayton has like 300 and some officers, of what they thought about the mediation response unit. 200 and some answered the survey, which is shocking. That means they either hate it or they love it. And they loved it. Everybody, all the police loved the mediation response unit. There are times where, and they're also trained, the police are part of the training, so they know to be able to see danger, they know how to call the police on the radio, they know when to back away, when not to take a call. But, pardon me, I've talked too many words. Okay, so, but they're trained with the police, and they also leverage each other. So there are some times, actually many times, where the Dayton police will go on a call and say, oh yeah, this is better for the mediation response unit. And they'll call the mediation response unit to come take over so they can take it and they can work more of a long-term solution out. And there's times also where the Dayton mediation response unit, maybe like 1 or 2% of the time, comes on a call and they're like, you know, this is probably better for the police to handle, or there's a crime here that they need to take a look at, and so they'll call the police. So they work hand in hand. They don't rarely respond together, but they do work hand in hand when they need to. And nobody from the Dayton Mediation Response Unit, when I think back on danger, has ever been hurt or assaulted. And I have talked and helped develop these groups all over the country, East Coast, West Coast, North, South. And people could get hurt. Social workers could get hurt. Child care workers can get hurt. But of the individuals that I've talked to, the dozens of individuals I talked to representing thousands of calls on community responders, not once has anybody ever told me, and I ask every time, has anybody ever been hurt? Not once has anybody ever been hurt. Could it happen? Yeah. And I had to think to myself, if I look at it and think, okay, if we send the right responder and somebody who can ultimately tie this up long-term with the community and get them the right resources and problem solve it so the police aren't going back to their house 25 times in the next 3 or 4 months, and nobody's getting hurt, versus, I know from experience, police going and they're not the right fit for that call. I think the councilman made a comment earlier about making sure the right fit of person is going the right call. We do know of, there are people in this room that have experienced people get put in jail before because maybe the police weren't the right response. Or we do see sometimes people that are suffering from mental health issues that end up being injured or worse because the police weren't the exact right response, not because anybody's trying to be a bad person, but because sometimes the right fit, you have bad outcomes. So what I've seen in Dayton has been incredible. The community's embraced it, the police department's embraced it, the city's embraced it, and it's really been something that's worked out extremely smooth and helped make Dayton all around a safer place.
Could you go to the next slide for me, please? So I just want to summarize a couple of things that Chief Tom has said. So the unarmed responders are people like clinicians, social workers, people who are trained in mediation, conflict resolution, and they respond to 911 calls like vagrant person, homelessness, mental subject, even verbal disputes between families and customers and tenants. So just knowing that they are dispatched through 911, they are trained. These are not just random people. They are trained. They do hours of training, and they work within the community to respond to those 911 calls as well as the police. And so I know you're probably thinking, like, what is this new? Is this old? It's actually been around for a very long time. So the first program that I have up there, Cahoots, is one of the oldest community response programs in America, and it has been existing for 30 years. So this is not a new concept. We're just now wrapping our minds around it. And so I've been doing a project just trying to collect information on the community responder programs that exist, and I've found at least 85 of them. I've found at least 85 of them that are existing. So this list right here does not even exhaust the number of programs that exist. However, there is one coming to Columbus. Could you go to the next slide? So earlier this year, probably in like June, the city of Columbus released an RFP for someone to essentially design an alternative response unit and lay out the recommendations for that. And so if you don't know what that is, I suggest that you go and you search that RFP and you see what the city is doing and what they are currently asking for, right? So the city council approved $400,000 for mission critical partners to come into this city and essentially design a program that will be running in your community, right? And you want to be the ones who's there to say what it is that your community needs. You want to be the one to say, hey, perhaps you have a question? Oh, I'm happy to take questions that are coming up. Yes.
How long will it take for the program to be designed?
Well, I'm going to speak for what we do when we are designing a program. I think that the start to finish, when it comes to speaking with stakeholders, reviewing the data, just formulating the recommendations themselves could take at least a year, right? And then after that, the recommendations go to city council, it goes to the mayor, and everyone is putting the pieces together. Let's say if we say Columbus needs a new department, let's say we need a Department of Community Response, right? Then you have to set up that entire department, you have to hire the people for it, you have to get the training together. So from design to pilot, that could take a year to 2 years. You know, it just depends on the infrastructure of the city themselves. So we recently worked with Evanston, Illinois to design a community responder program. And so that project took about almost a year, I'm gonna say 10 months on the shorter side, right? And now the program is up and running. So it took about, I'm gonna say 5 to 7 months or so to find the responders, train them, and build upon the existing infrastructure of Evanston, Illinois to be able to pilot that program. I don't have that number off the top of my head, to be honest.
Of Chicago, I'm guessing probably over 100,000, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
And the good thing is Columbus already has a lot of the stakeholders that they would want to talk to already working together on other programs that are being coordinated by the police and fire department and the city and nonprofits, and so that could potentially shorten it up.
Yeah, based on what I know about Columbus, Columbus has a lot of groups already doing this work. Y'all have React, Crew, so y'all are already building upon the infrastructure. I'm not going to speak for Mission Critical Partners or the city, but I could see a program, you know, coming here within a year or so, at least being able to start piloting, and that depends on if you're covering citywide or if you're only going to focus on one area. And so you asking a very good question, because you need to think about the needs of Columbus, right? Do Columbus need to focus on one specific area at the moment and see how the program works, right? Or do we need to go citywide and see how it works? Does Columbus have the money to fund this program fully throughout the pilot phase, right? Because sometimes what happens is the city will say, yes, we'll run this pilot, and then there's no money for it afterwards. And then the people are like, well, what happened to the community response team? We want them back, but then there's no money for it, right? So it's what Columbus needs. And one of the requests that the city asked for out of the RFP is that they asked Mission Critical Partners to design a community advisory board for the alternative response team, right? You know who needs to be on that board? Y'all, because it's going to be in y'all's community. And so if you're not reading the RFPs or being knowledgeable about what's going on in the community, you miss an opportunity to be a part of it. And then when you see Council Remy on the news saying, hey, the pilot's coming, and you're like, well, when the hell did they talk about this? You know, you're going to be confused, right? So be vigilant and hold Mission Critical's partners, not only them, but the city, accountable for what they put out. If they say they wanted a community advisory board, make sure that the community advisory board is a part of those recommendations. And not only does it say that, it says, I believe, to recommend at least 15 people with lived experience. The lived experience is in the room with us right now, right? And so that's the only way that this program will be what the community needs it to be, is if you guys are involved in that process. Don't let $400,000 go to waste, because what happens a lot of times is cities will spend hundreds and almost millions of dollars to design these programs, and then the community's like, we didn't ask for that. We didn't need that. We wanted them to be doing domestic violence work. We wanted them to be doing this, and they're not. And I've been told that, you know, domestic violence is a high issue here, right? I can't speak fully for Columbus, but if you know that that is an issue here, you might want to raise that with the people who are designing that board. It might not be that the responders can respond to a domestic violence call considering the laws in Ohio. Am I right? That you know, if the calls involve domestic violence, then someone has to be arrested. But what if there's a co-responder team, right, that responds to some of those calls, and if there's no threat, then then there's a responder who can handle that. So it's really dependent on what Columbus needs and what you guys are asking for. But again, you don't want to let $400,000 go down the drain. You want to be able to step in and say what the community needs. You can go on to the next one. So I was supposed to put that one up. And so I wanted to open up the board and really see how many people actually knew about the RFP that was coming. Did anyone read the RFP? We know you did. See, that's your money. That's your money right there that they're paying someone else, right? That the city is asking for something and you don't even know it's coming. And this is not to shame any of you. I had a program come to my city and I didn't find out until they were asking for the community advisory board, right? And you don't want to do that. You don't want to be at the very last end of this conversation and hoping that you can get in. And so I want to open up the floor to the people to see if there's any questions that they may have. I see a mic over here. Just to open up the floor to see if there's any questions that the people may have about alternative response, community response, and what that might particularly mean for Columbus.
And I'll just say that Council President and myself worked together to put that RFP out, make sure that the administration, the administration does that work, but make sure they put that out. And that was in response to a lot of the things that happened in 2020, the protests, and certainly the demands of people like the Safety Collective and others that wanted to see a truly non-police response. So we're excited to have the work completed. We do ask that people get engaged. There will be lots of opportunity for engagement, and we will hope to see many of you involved as we move forward with that project. Yes, sir.
I had a quick question as far as community agencies. For example, I work for Huckleberry House. We depend on CPZ. And my apologies. Oh, it's loud. But I work for Huckleberry House, and we deal with CPD for a lot of our non-responding. What type of services will the potential staff of these non-responders have as far as training for dealing with situations with youth? Is there going to be a unit that's kind of designed specifically for youth and their interactions and whatnot?
This is why you need to be involved, because I don't live in Columbus, so I can't even say like, oh, yes, that'll be a part of it. I do know that some programs do respond to calls that are for youth, right? And they provide them with the existing programs like for the Office of Violence Prevention. If we know there's a group out here that's doing some of the work, like We Linden Care, if I'm a responder and I get a call about a child who, let's say, doesn't want to go to school anymore or is having some issues, I probably like, let's get We Linden Care on the phone, right? And see if that they can talk to them and perhaps put them in their program. So it's building upon the referral services that you already have. And so if you think there is a need for a responder team to specifically respond to youth, then that should be a part of this conversation. But I can't say that that's what will be a part of the alternative response coming to Columbus, and I didn't see anything about youth response in the RFP.
I'll give you an example. You mind if I give an example? I'll give an example from Dayton. So the city of Dayton has 1/3 of the state of Ohio's group home members. So kids that are involved in group homes throughout the entire state of Ohio, 1/3 of them are in Dayton, Ohio. And so we have had, I think there's 80-some group homes. The police responded to 600 times last year, 600 calls for service to one home. So the Dayton Mediation Response Unit has now started doing work within those group homes, started interacting with the kids, started being able to connect them to services, doing things to try to, one, lighten the load on the number of the times the police have to respond, but two, be able to do some long-term problem solving with the individuals in those homes, because there's so many different rules for all the kids in those homes. So like Dee was saying, whatever the needs of this community is, sometimes, and that wasn't something they were doing at the beginning, but over time, they saw there is a need with our youth, and we need to begin focusing and working in that area as well.
And I would say that the youth are very important for this council, and certainly that non-response will be a high focus as we talk to, through with the consultants and then ultimately what's rolled out to the public.
You have a question?
And maybe I might have a question and possibly a comment. I'm not sure if towards the end of the presentation, but I know you were communicating about a RFP or a request for proposal that was there, and if people knew about it. I wasn't sure. I know that you're not from Columbus, but if somebody would be able to provide a link or something where people can access it so they can have it, because I think this is a noteworthy conversation and to ask about what the needs of the community are. But when we're asking for a voice, some people may not even know what an RFP is or even know where to access it. So I think that it would be ideal to have that information, because the way that you can communicate your voice is to be empowered with the knowledge that you have. So I think having this information being provided to the community would be helpful.
Yep, you bring up an excellent point, which is why I brought up the RFP. Like, if I didn't do this work and work with cities and work within governments, I wouldn't know about it either, right? So you have to stay vigilant on yourselves, and I know that can be a lot of work, especially when you got bills, you got kids, Donald Trump still running for president. Like, I get it. Things can happen, and so you have to be vigilant, and I'm pretty sure that Kaylin or Council Remy will be able to provide a link to the RFP. The process is over now, but you can read it to see what the city is currently asking for. And again, I did mention Mission Critical's partners. Go review their website. Go see the type of work that they're doing and see who the city has invested in.
Just to clear up that acronym, RFP means a request for proposal, and that's commonly used when we bid things out. So with the concept of having an alternative response design for the city of Columbus, we put that out there for different organizations to respond to and give us the price. So when we look at what those bids were when they come back, there's a committee of people that look over how they're fitting the requirements or the questions that were asked in the RFP, and then their price. We don't have to take the lowest price. We have to take the best, the people that are providing the best completion of services and the prices in consideration. But certainly it used to be government had to take the lowest price, and it didn't matter what the quality was. It was just you had to take the lowest price. And so we're fortunate that it's a meeting of both ways. So I'm going to say this, that we can make sure that, I don't know if there's a link involved. That's a little bit above my pay grade, but we certainly reach out to my office, and we will make sure that we send over a copy of it. If there's a link, we'll send you the link. I just don't know that detail. But we'll make sure that anybody that wants it, if you want to contact my office, we'll make sure you get it.
And this is not to beat the city of Columbus or Mission Critical Partners. This is just for you to know that, like, the city is invested in this, right? You need to be invested in this as well. If the city thought it was important, then you should see it as important. And I'm going to be quite honest with y'all. I just started doing this work almost 2 years ago. I had no clue what alternative to policing was other than a co-responder unit, right? But when I realized the impact of it, I was like, wow, this can help people get permanent housing. This can reduce the negative interactions between the police and the community. This could potentially save someone's life, right? And so it's important that you guys are involved, and it's important that the responders are coming from the community, that they look like the community, and that they're working with the community. Like, Columbus has so many great things happening. Just me doing my own research and hearing what is going on tonight, and you want to continue to build upon those resources, and right now you guys have a unique opportunity to do that, and so now is your time.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. I know we could continue this conversation and certainly get onto many other topics, but we want to be mindful of the time here at the church and certainly mindful of you all's time and maybe some cooler air conditioning in your car. But I do want to thank again the New Salem community and family for being so gracious as to host us this evening. The Troy family, thank you so much for your hospitality and all the people that helped. I want to bring up one important thing that's coming up next month that is done every year and has continued to grow, and that is on October 12th, there's an expungement clinic being hosted partly by the City of Columbus, but our Franklin County Municipal Court, and that's going to be at Ohio Means Jobs. There's so many opportunities to get your records expunged, and we want to make sure that everybody takes those opportunities. That clinic is going to be from 10 to 12 there will be a number of judges. I wouldn't be surprised. 10 judges are there to help expunge your record on the spot. It does require pre-registration, so we encourage you to, if you just go in and look up Expungement Clinic Columbus, Ohio, and look for that October 12th date, we'll make sure and get a link out, but certainly if you just do a Google search, you'll find that. That's going to be at 1111 East Broad, again from 10 to 12, but it does require pre-registration. So if you need to go ahead and do that search, it's a wonderful clinic, and it's one of the fastest ways to get an expungement here in Franklin County. But thank you again to my team. What's that? Oh, yeah, well, we'll talk about the block party. Yeah, just please come out. If you need more information, go to publicsafetyweek.com. That's publicsafetyweek.com, and we'll have information up on there. But certainly we welcome everyone to come out tomorrow from 4 to 7 at Linden Rec. We will have the block party. We will have lots of fun activities, and so we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to come out and work together and enjoy and celebrate together. It's going to be cool in our minds, but warm in our hearts, right? So anyway, thank you so much. Thank you to my team again, Kaylin Pittman, Avery Townsend, Cole Calloway, and everyone here tonight that helped make this possible. We appreciate you. Be safe going home, and have a great night.
If you will do me